let's be honest, for most of us, the internet is just there, right? It's like electricity or running water. We use it for literally everything: work, school, talking to family, binge watching shows. But have you ever stopped to think, what if it just wasn't? Yeah, let's get into it. Because that invisible utility we all take for granted is nowhere near as universal as you might think. No, really, just for a second. Imagine your day tomorrow with no internet, no GPS to get to that new appointment, no email, no Slack, no way to check your bank balance or see photos from your cousin's wedding. It's kind of terrifying, right? Well, for billions of people around the world, that's not some weird thought experiment. That's just Tuesday. And this whole situation has a name: the digital divide. Now that sounds simple, but it's not just one single problem. Think of it more like a whole collection of different gaps in access, in skills, and opportunity that seriously shape people's lives. So today we're going to break down exactly what those gaps look like, from a global scale all the way down to your own backyard. All right, first let's zoom all the way out. Let's get that 30,000-foot view. Because the most obvious divide, the one you can see from space, is the one between entire countries. The internet might be a world wide web, but it is not spread evenly across the world. Not even close. Okay, check this out. This map is basically showing you the internet's heartbeat. Every little dot of light is an active connection. And you can see these intense glowing clusters, right? North America, Europe, East Asia, they're just blazing with light. And then you see these huge patches of darkness. This isn't just a map of data. You're looking at a map of opportunity. So let's put some hard numbers on that map to see what it really means. In a country like Norway, almost everybody is online. We're talking 96% of the population. Now, compare that to Somalia, where it's just 2%. I mean, that's not a gap, that's a canyon. It's the difference between a society that's totally plugged in and one that's almost completely offline. And, it's not just about if you can get online. It's about how good that connection is. So let's say you want to download a movie, something simple. In Taiwan, which has some of the fastest internet on the planet, that'll take you maybe 8 minutes. In Yemen, that exact same file would take over 30 hours to download. Just think about that. How could you run a business or take an online class with that kind of connection? So the big question is, why? Why are these gaps so huge? Well, it pretty much boils down to three main things: the massive cost of building the infrastructure, the physical challenges of, crossing mountains and oceans, and in some pretty stark cases, it comes down to something much more intentional: government control. And this image right here, wow, it perfectly illustrates that third point. What you're looking at is a satellite photo of the Korean peninsula at night. You can see the blaze of lights from South Korea and China. And then, sandwiched right in between them, is this patch of almost total black. That is North Korea. That is what an internet black hole looks like from orbit. And to put that darkness into perspective, the entire country of North Korea, with a population of 25 million people, has just 1,024 IP addresses assigned to it. That's it? Access is basically locked down to a tiny handful of government elites, effectively sealing the entire country off from the rest of the world. Now, other governments don't just shut it off completely. They use the internet like a switch they can flip whenever they want. Just look at this chart from Iran back in 2019. Protests erupted across the country, and the government's response was to hit that switch, plunging national internet connectivity down to almost zero. It was a brutally effective way to shut down communication and organization. And pulling this off was no easy feat. The watchdog group NetBlocks called it one of the most severe and complex shutdowns they had ever seen. You see, the internet is actually designed to resist breaking down. So to shut it off on a national scale like this, well, that takes a huge, coordinated, and very deliberate effort to isolate your own people. Okay, so we've seen these massive divides between countries. But now let's zoom in a bit, because the digital divide isn't just an international thing. It exists right inside the borders of even the most connected countries in the world. Just because a country is lit up on that global map, that doesn't mean everyone inside has the same access. Let's take the United States. This map shows how many high-speed internet providers are available in different areas. The dark blue spots, mostly cities, have lots of options. But you see all those lighter shades, especially in more rural spots? Those are what we call digital deserts, places where you might only have one choice for an internet provider, or maybe none at all. And the numbers really drive this home. In American cities, only about 4% of people don't have access to broadband. But in rural areas, that number shoots up to 39%. And on rural tribal lands, it's a shocking 68%. A lot of the time, it just comes down to economics. It's way more profitable for a company to lay cable in a dense city than to serve a few spread out homes in the countryside. And this lack of access creates very real problems, like something called the homework gap. Think about it. Teachers assign online homework, but what if you don't have good internet at home? You're immediately at a disadvantage. And you can see it right here. 45% of teenagers from lower income families often have to do their homework on a cell phone, compared to just 29% from higher income families. So where do these kids go to get their schoolwork done? Well, a lot of the time, it's places like this. Fast food restaurants, public libraries, anywhere with free Wi-Fi suddenly becomes a classroom. It just goes to show how students are forced to find these workarounds just to get a basic education. Okay, so up to this point, we've mostly talked about access, having the signal or the cable reach you. But there's another layer to this, a much more human one. What if you have a connection, but you don't have the skills or the confidence to really use it? This is what's known as the digital use divide. It's all about digital literacy and meaningful participation. It's the difference between, say, passively scrolling through social media versus actively using online tools to learn a new skill, find a better job, or participate in your community. Here's a really interesting example, OpenStreetMap. It's this amazing, free, collaborative map of the entire world that literally anyone can edit. The front door is wide open for everybody. But the reality of who actually participates tells the different story. This map on the right shows which parts of the US have been edited by female power editors. While male editors have contributed everywhere, you can see the map for women is much patchier. It's a perfect visual of a participation gap. Now, I know this can all seem like a pretty massive and complicated set of problems, and it is. But the good news is people all over the world are already working on it. They're building bridges to cross these digital divides, and the solutions are as creative and diverse as the problems themselves. In some communities, the solution is literally grassroots. This picture shows a volunteer in the UK working with a nonprofit called B4RN. Basically, the big internet companies wouldn't serve their rural area, so the citizens just said, fine, we'll do it ourselves. They started digging trenches and laying their own fiber optic cable. It's incredible. In other places, solutions are coming from the top down. To fight that homework gap we talked about, some governments have started programs that give laptops directly to students, just like this one in Maine. This makes sure that every kid has the basic tools they need to learn, whether they're in the classroom or at their kitchen table. And what about that participation gap? There are projects tackling that too. This is from a group called Missing Maps. They focus the energy of thousands of online volunteers to map the world's most vulnerable places, areas that are often just blank spots on other maps. That way, when a disaster hits, aid workers have the accurate maps they need to save lives. So if there's one thing to take away from all this, it's that the digital divide isn't just one problem. It's a whole web of gaps. Gaps in infrastructure, in cost, in skills, and in participation. And people are building all kinds of bridges to cross them. But the question that we have to keep asking is this. As our world gets more and more digital, which bridge is the most important one for us to build next?